But in contrast, Jesus didn't leave a single physical structure or even item as his legacy. The only thing we know Jesus wrote was in the dust, so that it couldn't remain. It was in the dust on the temple courtyard floor where he wrote in John 8. Jesus, as far as his birthplace, we're not sure even to this day exactly where he was born. We're not exactly sure where he was crucified. We're not exactly sure even where he was buried. Now, there are many, in fact, many different spots, but we're not exactly sure because that didn't matter. Christ's brief life changed the world forever. Today he's alive. His kingdom is unending. And all of us as believers are his temple. He didn't build anything, but he's building the biggest thing. He didn't use stone and marble, but he's building the greatest temple because he's building us as his temple, and we are living stones. No matter how strong and glorious Herod appeared, baby Jesus was greater. Jesus is the one who lived for God's glory, and he was greatest. Herod lived for his own glory. And every day, and every little choice that we live for our own glory, we are so much like Herod, and we should so much be reminded of how short, how temporary, how foolish that is. And every day we should check in with the Lord and say, not my will, Lord, not my will today, not my will. I want to hear your voice, even if I have to strain from, Leviticus 13 and 14 or wherever you're reading. I want to hear your voice. I want to do your will. I want to know that you walk and talk with me. Well, there's some warnings that we can get from Herod's life. If you turn to Matthew 16 with me, here's the first one, Matthew 16. You probably have this one underlined, but I just want to underline it again for you. This is what Jesus says, starting in verse 24 of Matthew 16. This is Christ emphasizing the emptiness of Herod's life. And this is what Jesus says to us. Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself. Don't be like Herod, be like me. Take up his cross. Don't be like Herod, just what will benefit me. Take up that means of self-denial and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life, verse 25, will lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Remember, there's two ways to lose our life. Either in a blaze of glory, like Jim Elliot and all those great 5 missionaries that were murdered by the Auca Indians in 1956, or like the rest of most of us, we lose our life one day at a time. We deny and die to self and flesh and our own will every day. And I wonder which one is really harder. It's been debated whether it's harder to just have dying grace and take a spear or to learn to die day after day with all the flesh and the world and all the array against us. But Jesus said in verse 25, don't desire to save your life. Lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Verse 26, and here it is, for what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world, like Herod did, and loses his own soul, like Herod did? The lesson from Herod's life is simple. Herod had it all in this life. He had ancestors that were rich and famous. He had resources that were seemingly endless. He built most of those buildings at his own expense with the incredible wealth that rivaled the emperors of Rome. You can have it all and lose everything. It's amazing. As a general, Herod was nearly undefeated. As a diplomat, he was unstoppable. As a builder, he's not been paralleled in history. As a businessman, he was unimaginably wealthy. The contrast between Jesus and Herod couldn't be greater. Herod had power, wealth, strength, glory, position, everything. Jesus had nothing that demonstrated. But Jesus tells us, beware. Chapter 16, verse 26, don't profit in what you'll lose. Profit in what lasts forever. You can have it all in this life and have nothing in the next. Remember, faith is vital. Without faith, Hebrews 11:6 says, it's impossible to please Him. For we who come to God must believe that He is, and that He rewards those who diligently seek Him, who seek Him by faith, who say, this world is not my home. I'm just passing through. My treasures are laid up, not in the Bank of New York, or on the exchange, or even in the registry of deeds. But my treasures are laid up in your presence somewhere. Well, what are the conclusions from Herod's life? Few people were as close to salvation as the Herod family was. Few had so many opportunities to meet the Messiah and to hear His teaching from His apostles. When we look at the Scriptures, we notice the encounters of the Herod family. And when we see the messages they heard, it's amazing. If you ever want to do a study, look at the 8 Herod family members and what they heard, who they met, the sermons. I mean, they heard Jesus and John the Baptist. They heard Paul. They heard the gospel. But they were failures. The legacy of Herod the Great is that few families have come as close to Jesus' message as the Herods. Many members knew Jesus and His followers, yet one after the other they killed or tried to kill anyone connected with Christ. Do you know why? That's the result of living for self. Herod had it all in this life. We can have it all and fail in the next. If we live for the earth and not for heaven, we will lose everything. We can tremble before God's word like Herod did. When he heard the prophet said the baby was in Bethlehem, it says he trembled. He trembled with rage, but he believed it so much he dispatched his army. We can tremble before God and still be damned. We can gain the whole world and still lose our own soul. We can get as close as Herod and his family and still miss heaven if we don't do the will of our Father in heaven.